Hi, I'm Jay Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we are in the same city for once, so we thought we would record a video special for you.
See, it's not a green screen. Our arms can go behind each other and everything.
Our arms could go behind each other on a green screen.
It
just wouldn't be, it would just be... Oh, I guess if we had separate green screens.
We don't have the technology for that.
We lack rudimentary video editing skills.
But we are both in Las Vegas, Nevada, having just completed Vegas Valley Comic Book Festival, which was really great.
Yeah, it's a great show, and if you're ever in the area, you should check it out. It is a free library festival. It's awesome. But we wanted to record something together, and we were trying to think of something we could do. Oh yeah, if you're not familiar with us, we host a podcast called Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, and we're kind of baffled as to how you found this video, but
right.
Rock on. So we were trying to think of something to do, and as it happens, I had a birthday recently, and my friend Max, who draws and writes the comic strip Waiting for the Trade, sent me this amazing, amazing artifact in the mail. This is an early reader's adaptation of the classic X-Men comic story Days of Future Past. It was released to correspond with the timing of the movie release, but it's specifically an adaptation of the comic story. It's illustrated kind of bafflingly in the art style of the defunct, and long defunct by the time this came out, Wolverine and the X-Men cartoon.
So yeah, we have a children's book about a dark future defined by genocide, which itself was triggered by a present defined by murder.
Which is to say, the ideal children's book for 2018. So we were thinking we'd have Storytime.
Indeed we shall. Now, we have a number of different chapters here. You want to just alternate?
Yeah, I think we should just switch off.
Want to start it up?
Alright, so this is World of Reading, X-Men Days of Future Past, by Thomas Macri, illustrated by Patrick Olive and Pete Pantazis, and based on the Marvel comic book series, X-Men. Chapter 1, Life in Tomorrow. 20 years from now, the landscape of New York will look like a war zone. Giant robots rule the city and all of North America. These machines, called Sentinels, were created to destroy mutants. Some of the hardest mutants to destroy are heroes called the X-Men.
Kind of sums it up, really.
But one by one, even the X-Men fall to the Sentinels. Cyclops, Jean Grey, even the X-Men's leader, Professor X, are defeated. Two of the last remaining X-Men plan to meet here in what once was Times Square. Because it's so desolate, it's one of the only zones that is not patrolled by the Sentinels. These X-Men have a plan to change their world. But just because the Sentinels don't patrol the area doesn't mean it's safe. Cait is attacked by a band of thugs. She was born with the ability to walk through walls and become as light as air. She would use her powers if she could, but the Sentinels have placed a collar around her neck. It prevents her from using her abilities. Luckily for Cait, her fellow X-Man Wolverine is still alive, and he is here to help. And also, he looks a lot like Bruce Campbell for some reason.
I would watch that.
Wolverine is wearing a collar too, but he has trained as a samurai. He can fight well without his powerful claws.
I like that they just throw that out there. No context.
Kitty has also trained as a samurai, though.
It's true, in that weird miniseries.
Cait tells Wolverine she's glad to see him. Wolverine has brought something for Cait and the rest of the surviving X-Men. It will neutralize their collars. Their powers will work again. Many years from the time we live in, the X-Men's world might be a very dark place. But it hasn't always been this way.
Chapter 2. Back to the Past. 20 years before the Sentinels took over, the X-Men's world was a very different place. That time is our present day. The X-Men had discovered a teenage mutant in the suburbs of Chicago. That mutant's name was Cait Pride. She called herself Kitty back then. For weeks, Kitty Pryde had been feeling really sick. Her headaches were terrible, and right before they'd go away, something very strange would happen. The day the X-Men arrived at her home was no different. Kitty phased right through her bedroom floor and fell into the living room, just as the X-Men were arriving. The X-Men's leader, Professor X, was there. So were Wolverine, Storm, who could control the weather, Cyclops, who could shoot force beams from his eyes, and Jean Grey, who could move things with her mind. Kitty's parents didn't know about her powers. so the X-Men took her out to a diner to talk about them. Storm told Kitty that she was a mutant, a person born with fantastic abilities. Professor X wanted Kitty to come train with the X-Men. This would help her learn to use her powers. Kitty was nervous, but she was more frightened of dealing with her powers on her own, so she agreed to join the X-Men. Kitty's parents thought that Professor X's school was a regular boarding school. They didn't know that it was a school for mutants, so they let Kitty go with the professor and join his school. Her life would never be the same.
It's probably just as well that they left out the part where Jean manipulates their minds to get them to center there.
And the whole thing with Emma Frost showing up and some people getting beaten up and dying and the mandroids.
Destroyed.
Oh, sorry. Destroyed.
Yeah. Which brings us to Chapter 3. Welcome to the X-Men, Kitty Pryde.
Hope you survived the experience. I could not say it. It's just built right in. I couldn't
You
not say
definitely
it.
will, because this is an early reader's book. We think. The professor gave Kitty a costume. She felt like a real superhero. She'd be a full-fledged X-Man someday. As soon as it was time for Kitty's first training session, it was set up in the X-Men's special gym, the Danger Room, which could do just about anything. Her goal was simply to cross the room. All the X-Men gathered in the control booth to mock her.
Just to judge, silently.
As nervous as Kitty was, it proved easy for her to pass the test. She walked with no problem from one end of the room to the other. In the control room, the other X-Men laughed. See, I was right.
Oh, well.
It had taken weeks for the professor to program the Danger Room for the test, and Kitty beat it in less than a minute.
Okay, I kind of love that they included that scene. That's great.
But just as Kitty made it to the door, she suddenly fainted. The X-Men rushed over to her. They couldn't figure out what had happened. Could it have been an enemy attack? They would soon find out that it was exactly the opposite.
Chapter 4. Back to the Future. But not that one. Back in the future world, the X-Men's plan worked. Once Wolverine and Cait met up with the rest of the remaining X-Men, they used the device to get their powers back. Rachel Summers, the future daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey, they also just throw that one right in there. Yeah. Probably best not to explain, this book would be way longer. Used her amazing psionic powers on Cait. She can read minds and even move things just by thought. Rachel sent Cait's mind back into her teenage body. The X-Men know a series of key events had brought on the state of their world. Those events began with the Brotherhood of Mutants kidnapping presidential candidate Senator Robert Kelly. The X-Men think that sending Cait back to stop the kidnapping will prevent this future. But while Cait was in our era, Kitty is in the future X-Men's time. They need to do everything they can to protect her. If Cait's body is hurt, Kitty might not ever be able to return. With their powers back, the heroes are able to fight the Sentinels. But countless robots attack the X-Men, and they are not sure how long they can hold out. Back in the past, Cait would need to hurry.
Chapter 5. The Brotherhood Strikes. Cyclops! Jean! You're alive! Kitty shouted. The X-Men had no idea what was going on. Of course they were alive. Kitty explained that she had traveled from the future. The only way to stop their horrible future from coming to pass was to prevent the Senator's kidnapping. Jean Grey had the power to read minds. I've scanned her mind, and she's telling the truth, Jean said. Then there's no time to lose, Cyclops said. And the X-Men rushed to the Senate chamber in Washington, D.C. When the X-Men arrived, the Brotherhood had already broken into the chamber, but they hadn't yet kidnapped the Senator. The Brotherhood thought mutants were better than humans and were meant to rule them. The X-Men thought humans and mutants should live together peacefully, and that might never happen if they didn't stop the Brotherhood.
Chapter 6. Saving Cait. Meanwhile, the future hadn't yet changed at all. The Sentinels chase after the X-Men. and the robots are not giving up. "I'll hold off these sentinels," Storm calls out. "Keep Cait safe at all costs." "I'll give Storm a hand," Wolverine shouts as he attacks a pair of sentinels. "Colossus, we could use some help." "Rachel, it's up to you to protect Cait. I have faith in you," Colossus says. "If I fail," Rachel responds. "You will not, you cannot fail. The world depends on you," Colossus tells her. Colossus joins his fellow X-Men in their fight, and Rachel does all she can to protect Cait Pride.
Chapter 7. Time's up! Meanwhile, in our time, the Brotherhood's leader, Mystique, told Senator Kelly to come with her. If you want the senator, you're going to have to go through us, Wolverine said. That will be my pleasure, Mystique replied. The Brotherhood of Mutants attacked, and the X-Men attacked right back. The mutant called Pyro blasted Colossus with fire, but Colossus's metal body didn't burn. Look out behind you, the mutant known as Destiny cried out to Avalanche, another member of the Brotherhood. Destiny could see the future, and she knew Storm was about to attack. Avalanche started to crumble walls around Storm, but Jean Grey was able to stop the bricks from falling. This left Storm able to capture both Avalanche and Destiny in a whirlwind. The Blob, another member of the Brotherhood, couldn't be moved. The X-Men tried as best they could, but it was no use. We might not be able to move you, Blob, Colossus said, but we can move the ground beneath you. And with that, Colossus smashed a huge crater under the Blob's feet, sending him into it. Storm cemented the Blob into the crater with thick sheets of ice. But in all the commotion, the X-Men had lost track of the Brotherhood's leader, Mystique. Her power was to change her shape. She had disguised herself as a government worker who was trying to protect the senator. Once she had him cornered, she showed her true colors. You're coming with me, Senator. Mutants are superior to humans, and we will rule over you. Mystique pointed a high-tech crossbow at the senator.
Kidnapping crossbow.
Not today, you won't. Not ever, Kitty cried as she phased through Mystique. She was able to prevent Mystique's bow from hitting the senator, and she knocked Mystique out in the process. The other X-Men moved in to capture her. Just then, Kitty started to faint again. But this time, the X-Men knew what was happening. Rachel had succeeded in keeping Cait safe in the future, and the X-Men had prevented the kidnapping in our time. But had they changed the future? Only time would tell, but one thing was for sure. The X-Men had saved the day.
Well done,
end.
X-Men.
So yeah, that exists.
It does. I gotta say, like, as an adaptation of Days of Future Past, if you're intending for children to read anything resembling that story, that's actually a pretty good adaptation.
Maybe just go with the comic, honestly. I think it's less disturbing to watch them actually talk about murder than sort of skirt around it.
Then you have to explain to your children why Wolverine's getting incinerated by a Sentinel Blast. I guess you have to have the conversation about Wolverine getting incinerated by a Sentinel Blast sometime.
You really do. Teach your kids about Sentinels, because if you don't, who will?
I mean, Ahab.
Okay, gosh, do you hear something, Miles? Oh my gosh, there's someone at the door! Who could it be? Come in!
Hello!
Why, hello! Look, everyone! It's beloved Portland band, the Broadsides, fresh off the successful release of their latest album, Trust Issues. Welcome, Broadsides!
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hello, Jay and Miles.
Well,
Did you brought a guitar? Did you come to share a song with us?
Well, I
would
guess,
love to.
if you
Maybe.
insist.
All right. Well,
Hello out there, people on the internet. Are we ready? Okay. This is a song about superheroes and respect. It's important. They fight evil with extraordinary power. They save us in the place that we call home. But when the villain's stunned, the battle has been won. Sometimes they just want to be alone. You know why?
Why?
'Cause superheroes are people too. Give those guys the same respect they give to me and you. Let them have some privacy when the day is through. 'Cause superheroes are people too. With great power comes great responsibility. And our heroes have taken up that task. After dangers that they face, they need some private space. We don't think that it's too much to ask. 'Cause superheroes are people too. Give those guys the same respect they give to me and you. Let them have some privacy when the day is through. 'Cause superheroes are people too. Wonder Woman can shower on her own. Stop asking Catwoman if she will crack your whip. Zatanna can wear pants if she wants to. A telephoto lens is not a relationship. Peter Parker. So when you see your favorite hero at a club, or walking crypto, or on a date, give them a friendly wave, and please try to behave. You would not like the Hulk when he's irate. 'Cause superheroes are people too, yes they are. Give those guys the same respect they give to me and you. Let them have some privacy when the day is through. 'Cause superheroes are people too. Because sometimes Wolverine just wants a fucking jug of milk. Superheroes are people too. It's a good lesson on respect. Would you like your couch back?
We'll
I mean,
couch
it's-
briefly again.
But first, you should tell all of our listeners and everyone on the internet out there where they can find you and hear more of your music.
Oh, that's marvelous. We are the PDX Broadsides, pdxbroadsides.com, at PDX Broadsides on Twitter, Instagram, and we are on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Bandcamp, and most importantly, of course, pdxbroadsides.com. Thank you so much for letting us
Thanks
be
for
your
having
couch
us.
friends.
Thanks,
guys.
Yay! Have fun in Las Vegas, people.
We will.
Let the drinking games begin!
All right, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna go eat dinner and probably, like, I don't know, sleep or do Vegas things. What do you do in Vegas at night?
Look at the strip at night. There are lots of bright lights. I don't want to gamble, but I
Very
like bright
bright.
lights.
Well, I mean, I'm well equipped for that already.
You're ready.
But thank you guys so much again. Thank you for listening. If you're new to us, you can find us at explainthexmen.com, also on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, probably other random podcatchers. We don't know.
even know.
We're everywhere.
I think they put us on the
We're just sort of in the
Voyager.
ether. We're from the internet. We're the internet people.
Yes. And so we're done with this show. I think that's the end of it. We're going to do Emerald City in March, so if you're going to be in Seattle, you should come see us there too. That would be great.
Yes, we are effervescent delights.
And with that, stay safe out there, Internet.